I've been seeing a ton of ads for these really neat looking modular MIDI controllers, the Intech GRID controller. But all the reviews that I've seen are from music producers and studios and not from VJs out on the road. So I hit them up and asked them if they would send me some so that I can test them out for you. So, are these Intech GRID MIDI controllers any good for VJs? First, I'll show you what they are and tell you a little bit about them. Then I'll share my positive and negative thoughts about them. If you like what you hear or want more information about these neat little controllers, there are links in the description, and be sure to like and subscribe if you want to support these videos that I'm doing. Enough of that. Let's take a look at these controllers. The Intech GRID controllers are a set of square MIDI control modules with different arrays of buttons, pots, encoders, and faders on them. They attach together with a satisfying magnetic click on any of the four sides to form a larger control surface in any arrangement that you like. And that entire group shares power and data through a single USB-C cable. You can select and use any number or combination of modules that you like. I got the BU16, the EN16, the EF44, and the PBF4. They also have the PO16 and the Tech2. They also have this NOT device that connects to traditional MIDI instruments instead of computer software instruments. And they've got a bunch of accessories like a travel bag, some different stands and mounts, and colored button options. In addition to the main controls, each module has a button on the bottom side that allows you to switch pages and extend the functionality of your control surface 4 times. And one neat thing about the way that they work is that they send out different MIDI information based on their relative position. This behavior is what allows you to connect multiple of the same module together into your control surface without having overlapping MIDI data. But if you like living on the edge and getting a little weird, you could conceivably switch your controller configuration around while it's connected to open up a hidden set of controls. I take no responsibility of what happens if you try this during a show. Lastly, they have the Grid Editor program that lets you get in and customize a bunch of different things about these controllers, from the LEDs and their behavior to the behavior and messages of all of your different buttons and sliders and knobs. Pretty much everything about the controllers you can get in and customize to a pretty deep level if you wanted to. So, are they good for VJs? Do they work with Resolume? What do I really think about them? I've had them for a few weeks, tried them out on a couple of shows, and they work pretty well. They're pre-programmed to work right out of the box, so you can totally just click a few together, plug them in, and start mapping inside Resolume immediately. They have preset LED feedback built in, and you can go ahead and customize that feedback or things like the MIDI channel relatively easy in the Grid Editor program. You know, it's a MIDI controller, and it's pretty easy to use out of the box on a basic level. Great. The Grid Editor program itself is super powerful. I'm not nerdy enough to really get deep into it, but there are a couple of cool things that you can do with it. For example, you can change the button mode to a couple of different modes, like momentary or toggle, right within the actual programming of the controller. And it also has 2-step and 3-step toggles, which are button types that Resolume does not have natively. So you can have a button that you press 3 or even 4 times to toggle through different states. And you can also add cool things like if-then statements and references to other buttons to see, like, if a button is pressed, then output on a separate channel or things like that. And there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do. If you want to get deep into it, you can like write your own code into the button or slider to make it behave a certain way, or even have your MIDI controller control your mouse and keyboard on your computer really endless possibilities. I've only scratched the surface. This goes deep. They have some really great tutorials on it, and if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know and I can make some more in-depth content on that. Another thing I really like about these controllers and that attracted me to them in the first place is their modularity and size. They're super small and lightweight, and you can easily put together really whatever control surface you need for the situation, and even replicate the functionality of a bunch of other controllers with this set of controllers. For example, the BU16 and the EN16 are pretty similar in functionality to the MIDI Fighter and the MIDI Fighter Twister. A PBF4 and a BU16 combine to make something pretty similar to Tractor Control F1. And if you got yourself a couple of EF44s, some BU16s, and an EF16, you could make something with about the same functionality as an APC40. And if you like the Launch Control XL or the MIDI Mix, you could make something similar out of PO16s and PBF4s. Whatever you decide to do, you can make your controller square, super wide, really any Tetris shape you want to deal with the space you have available and the control surfaces you need. You can add or remove modules as needed for that specific gig and just be super flexible. And I think that's a really unique thing about this set of controllers. Now let's talk about some of the cons. They are very lightweight, and although the magnets do stick together pretty well, if you're hard on your faders, they might slide around a little bit because they're so lightweight, and they could potentially even separate just enough to momentarily disconnect. They do reconnect right away, but that could cause some issues if you go really ham on these things. However, I did bring this up to the developers, and they are prototyping some heavier weighted bases that might help with that. They also have some different racks and mounts that could give certain configurations a bit more rigidity. I'm not super heavy on my faders, so I've used this in a few shows and didn't have this issue. But when I was testing it here at home and really just kind of going ham on them, I did notice some momentary blips. Another concern that I have is that having all of these exposed connectors on the outer edge could, over time, attract some grime and dust, especially in dusty outdoor festival environments. They did provide me with a cleaning kit in the package, but you will likely need to keep up with maintenance and cleaning a little bit more than your average controller if you use them often in dusty outdoor environments. They did say that they have users from several years ago that are still using some of the early models, and their parts have only gotten better over time. They also sell replacement parts on their website, but I would expect maintenance to be slightly higher for these units than some of the other options that VJs usually are used to using. Another thing that I'm not super happy with is the endless encoders. Now, I love endless encoders. I think they're great for mapping inside Resolume. You can map them into multiple things and not have to worry about like the position jumping when you change the value on the next thing. But these particular ones have little steps in them. When you turn, you can feel it kind of clicking to the next step. That's not ideal for me. I prefer a smooth rotation for smoother changes in values. Also, the LED feedback on these is just a single LED where you can change brightness or color to indicate the value. Again, comparing this to something like the MIDI Fighter Twister, that LED feedback with the LED dial is a little bit more precise and easy to read compared to this single LED. So, what do we think? Are these controllers good for VJs? I think these controllers are super fun. I really enjoyed using them, and I think they can be a great tool for VJs. The possibility of customization and flexibility with these controllers is really amazing, and I think really well suited to creative VJ types. That said, I would consider the environment that you're using these controllers in and just give a bit of a stronger recommendation to those VJs that primarily perform indoors and maybe don't travel as much. Traveling outdoor festival VJs may want to consider another controller that's going to be more robust, or just consider a case and be really mindful of the maintenance needs of these controllers. That said, I think these controllers are super fun to use, and Intech is a really great company to watch. They're a small company out of Hungary, and they have a really open source mindset. They're really engaged with their community through their Discord server, and they're always taking suggestions and making improvements to both the software and the hardware of these controllers. So I think that if more VJs do start to use these controllers, they'll be listening to us and our unique use cases and issues that come up and start to improve these controllers for us as well. So what do you think? Leave your comments down in the description. Any comments, questions, opinions, and of course, like, subscribe, and come back later for more videos. Check the links in the description. Thanks for watching. Peace.